Trapdoor Beaver asking, what are the base things that every fighting game needs, do you think? Their top two is a Rev2/FS or Fantasy Strike style entry tutorial, frame data, frame skip, data about how long an input has been held down, and data about how long between two inputs. That's really interesting because that is a feature that you see a lot in any of the old arcade games that are getting Lua script training modes. You'll see this happen on a bunch of Fightcade games where Waku Waku 7 just recently got a training mode for it, and that's something that they have. That's really interesting that you bring that up. It's something that everyone seems to like when they have it, but that's the first time I've heard someone mention it as something that's like, we need this, like we should be implementing this. Trapdoor Beaver been low-key raging about the lack of time between inputs. It's something that helps you if you are very into the frame data. That is something that is so helpful. Yeah, was I slow? Was I early? Give me some kind of information about where I was in my timing. That is absolutely very important. I think you're right. That's something that doesn't get enough credit. Frame skip or frame step, I think, is a nice to have. But if you have a proper record and playback functionality, then that is not really necessary anywhere near as much. Yeah, FS is the first game that I've seen add a record feature after a frame step type of feature. This is only because David does not believe that a record functionality is necessary to figure out stuff in a fighting game. He does not use it, and he believes that it is not necessary. So he did not implement it in his game. That's cool for him. I, for one, need that shit. Like, I need a proper recording functionality. And it's so funny. You know what? I spent like 2 years telling them, can I please get a record functionality? And they're like, no, not happening. I'm like, okay, you know what? You already let me pick reversal off of, whatever, a block. Let me pick a list of moves. Fantasy Strike's move list is very small, all things considered. You can just give me a list of every single possible button input, right? And I can pick my reaction on hit, on block, on reset, on wake up, right? And they did eventually implement that. And I think that does 95% of what a record functionality will do with, I think, far less effort in terms of implementation. But legitimately, it was 2 years of being like, guy, we need a record mode, and then being told, no, you don't. Finally, we got it, though. Unfortunately, I had been done making most of my Fantasy Strike combo videos at that point, so the biggest utility for me was gone. Interesting. Frame skip's value was, in your opinion, Trapdoor Beaver, is not actually for labbing out various options, but for doing frame-perfect stuff for recording characters you don't use. This is also true. Yeah, absolutely. I've used it personally for like finding out specific timing, where it's like, how big of a window do I have? And you can use frame step to pretty easily calculate how big of a window an option takes or an option has to work. But you're right, you shouldn't have to be 100% competent with a character to be able to do anything. If you have to pull those things off while recording it, then you do have to be competent with them. So that's a fair criticism, right? Choosing options from a list lets you string them together, where you can do some really interesting things with, I can set different reactions from the dummy on block, on hit, on wake up, on reset. And then you also randomize their blocking or throw teching. And then you go and do your sequence as your character. And you get like an excellent response from the dummy as to what humans might actually do. It's a variety of things you get to test out. Oh, does it work well against all of these options in the same situation? Now I can find out. I'll be cycling through them all. There's some good stuff that you can do there that prevents you from needing to know the actual character that you're training against. Frame skip or frame step will allow you to do it just frame by frame perfect, and you don't have to worry about the execution. Remember save state existing. I was so happy when I discovered the secret save state functionality in the PC version of Fantasy Strike. That was beautiful. Leaving in dev tools and then removing them instead of, making them a thing. Yeah, you should prioritize building out training mode early, because you're right, it does take a lot of time and effort to actually do that stuff properly. The Merfight developer, Matrified, is coming to realize, where he's been starting to make some changes for the better to their training mode functionality in Merfight, and finding, oh, no, wait, I can't necessarily do that. That might not be as easy as I thought. I've given him a few suggestions, and he seems to be doubtful as to how possible it's going to be for them to do it. But yeah, this is, the earlier you start considering that, the better your chances are at success.